Greetings, my name is Justin Jones-Fosu. I'm your host for the 7-mini episode Everyday Diversity series, and today we are diving into how to move from initiative to actually everyday lives. And that's done in episode 2, and that's welcoming versus inviting, how to enlarge our circles. And if you stay tuned from last, or you listened to the last episode to the Circles of Grace, we talked about who's in our circles actually impacts how and why we see events and people the way that we do. But now this one, it tells us a little bit more in terms of how do we enlarge our circles in practical ways. And so I need to show you an image, and the image I'm going to show you, for many of you, actually might be very offensive. But I think it's an image that I have to show. So, show the image. Now, many of you would be like, what in the world? Is this the right image, right? Like, he's like, yes, just not like wine, right? I don't drink it all, right? So just imagine if you don't drink alcohol, just imagine it's apple juice, right? I'm glad you brought apple juice, right? So, but I want to ask you a simple question. When you see this image, what do you see? What do you see? Now, when I ask my audience this question, it's amazing. I get some really smart people. I get some amazing answers. Like people are like, it's symmetrical. I like the different font colors, the red. Some people, kind of dive in deeper, like, oh, it's conditional. Some people who I know are like DIYers, do-it-yourselfers, are like, oh, the bricklaying is actually explicit. It's amazing, right? And then the people who love the earth, right? The vegetation is all right. And then I get the really deep people that are like, oh, I get it, Justin. Why the door got to be white, right? Why can't it be black, brown, or rainbow, right? And I get it, right? But I want to ask you a very, very important question. What do you notice about the door? Yeah, you're right. The door is closed. And I know what you're thinking, like, but Justin, I don't want bugs in my house either. And while I agree, from a symbolic nature, as I've traveled across the country and lived in many different regions, I've noticed that there's a difference between being welcoming and inviting. And for many of us, it's a semantics thing, right? It's, as I may describe it, I want you to understand my definition of it. But welcoming is, I'm glad you're here. Inviting is, I'm glad we're here. When you're welcome, somebody can shake your hand and glad you're in this space, but there's an expectation for you to go back to your circles and for me to go back to mine. What's inviting is it's open and humble enough and courageous enough to invite someone else in to your circles, but also courageous enough to be invitable into somebody else's circles. And so I encourage you to think through, what does it mean to be more inviting? Let me ask this question. What are your inviting behaviors? What are the things that you do that convey that you are open to bringing other people into your circles, to increasing diversity within the different boardrooms or within your teams or within your organization or within your community? What does it look like when you don't see a group of people that are represented for you to invite them in? Right? What does it look like for you? But let's just bring it down. That's on a kind of a macro level, to a micro level. What are your personal inviting behaviors? Right? When I ask this question, for many of my people in the audiences, they're like, well, Justin, sometimes it's just smiling. Sometimes it's open up the doors. Sometimes it's eating with other people. I was this session and somebody's like, sharing food with someone. Somebody's like, I'm not sharing my food, right? But like when we share food with one another, I know one person that says like once a week, it's pre-COVID, but they said once a week that they decided to have a meal with someone else and just get to know them. And they did that intentionally and stepped outside of their normal comfort zones. For some people, that might be a Zoom call once a week with someone you don't know or you're getting to engage. Having those inviting behaviors, bringing people in, because those are the ways that we begin to enlarge our circles. Many of us, it's uncomfortable. We don't know sometimes the same jokes, or it's the awkwardness. I mean, if you've ever been on a first date, it's like the awkwardness of going to McDonald's for the first. Please don't go to McDonald's for the first date, right? But the awkwardness of unless McDonald's is a sponsor, thank you, McDonald's. But the awkwardness of going on a first date and just meeting someone, and you're just like, I don't know what to say, how to say it, all of these things. But the question is, because it's so important to us at times, we press through the discomfort. And I encourage us, as we're engaging in inviting behaviors, to press through discomfort, to learn. It doesn't mean you're going to be best friends with this person, but it does give you an opportunity to enlarge your circles. And as I've become more inviting, I've learned so much about so many other people and people that I normally probably wouldn't have connected with. But let me give you the other side. We also not just need to be inviting, we also have to be invitable. To be able to be available to enter in, right? For some people, that's going to events or things that they normally wouldn't go to, that's experiencing something where they're not seen as a person that should, quote unquote, be there, right? That they may join an organization or get involved in a cause that may not be something that is relevant necessarily for them directly, but they can see the indirect impact. Whatever that may be, how are you not only inviting, but also invitable? These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. And the real thing in all this is, what will you do? What action will you take, right? What are some specific, if you had to identify one specific inviting behavior that will push you through that discomfort a little bit, what would it be over the next week or 30 days just to be able to engage in more inviting behaviors? To reach out and call someone and say, hey, we don't really know each other. This really crazy bald head guy was like, hey, I need to do inviting behaviors. Blame it on me, I don't mind. But whatever you may do, engage. Hear people in a unique and different way. But again, look for who's not in the room, because we have an important opportunity to fully be not just welcoming, I'm glad you're here, but to be inviting, I'm glad we're here. And if you've ever struggled with the difference between diversity and inclusion, and I know this is simplistic and it's designed to be in this way, but diversity is welcoming. Glad you're here. We're inviting is inclusion. So I'm glad we're here. See the difference? So what will you do? Right? Imagine you brought beer, some wine, apple juice. You knew everybody was welcome. You came to the house. Person opened up the door like, oh, it's good to see you, thank you. And closed the door and you're looking in like, oh, there's everybody else. It wouldn't feel right. But imagine if you were then not just welcome, you got the evite or invite, but you were invited into the house. What would you do? You feel grateful. You feel awesome. And I think all of us have an opportunity to be more inviting in what we do, and also invitable. Thank you so much. And one way that we can do this, I'd love for you to invite me, invite me into your circles and my social media. I'm inviting you as well. I'm Justin at Work Meaningful, or you can reach me at I Work Meaningful at all these places. If you're, sometimes people struggle with being more inviting because they're afraid they're going to say or do something stupid. So I want you to check out our next episode, episode 3, Stupid Stuff Smart People Say. The difference and the importance between intent and impact. Be very, very helpful, I believe. And I'd love to stay connected with you here, but also stay connected with me here on this series. Thank you so much for watching these series and the 7-mini episode Everyday Diversity series. Until next time, I'm Justin Jones-Fosu. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.